welcome to the Oak and Lamb YouTube channel. My name is Becca Oaks. This is Anna Lamb, and today we are going to talk about some of the unexpected things that we have found while we have been foster parents. We are in the state of Tennessee first and foremost, so let's talk about that. Fostering is different from state to state. Laws, rules, and things are different. I think there are overarching things that are pretty common across, but keep that in mind when we are talking about these specific things for us. I don't know that I actually have anything that is
law required.
Yeah, I don't think I do, but just things that we weren't necessarily expecting to deal with, to be so difficult, to be easy. I don't know.
Things we wish we knew before we started.
Because there is not a lot of information, I think, readily available if you want to become a foster parent. Like, what does that look like? What is the involvement? What do you have to commit to? What does that look like for your family? All of these things. And we're not going to get into all of that today, but if this is a topic that you are interested in, then we are very happy to dive more into that and even have some other, I guess, guest speakers on to give their experience as well. We have many friends and family who are fosters. So we have a really great support group, and I would say that that's one of the most important things, is to make sure that your family and that your friends are very supportive of you as a foster parent, because that, if you do not have that, it can be pretty difficult. But that's not even on my list.
Right?
Yeah. Is there anything you want to talk about before we dive into that specifically?
No, I just do want to say that at the beginning, it's like, well, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And I have had so many people message me after they've known that we're on this journey and say, how do I get started? Mm-hmm. And you want to know how easy it is? You literally go to the government's website and say, I want to sign up to be a foster parent. You put a little tiny snippet of information in, mm-hmm. and then they call you back and get it started.
Within the same day is when I got messaged.
Yes, it is so, it feels like this life-changing decision, which it is.
Oh, it absolutely
100%. But when you go to sign up, it's kind of like, is that it?
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you that through the whole process, there's a lot of, is that it moments. Like, up until adoption, the adoption date.
If you adopt, not all foster children are adopted.
Correct. If you end up adopting on the adoption date, when the judge says henceforth and forevermore, it's kind of like, like no balloons, no party. Like it is super anticlimactic for this huge moment in your life. But that's a lot of it. It feels like a lot of it is not undermined, but not as big of a deal as what it should be. Let's say that.
So really quickly, and we can go into more detail about this in another video, but in the state of Tennessee, in order to become a foster parent, obviously you have to be able to pass a background check. You have to have some fingerprinting done. You do not have to be married. You can be a single person. You do not have to have a home that you own. You can be a renter. You can live in pretty much, an apartment, a trailer, anything, as long as you can pass your home study, which that's a whole nother video too. And then there are 8 courses. Again, this is state of Tennessee. There are 8 courses that you have to take, and generally you take one a week. And they're between 3 and 4 hours, so it's pretty time intensive with that. You watch these videos, or you go in person and take these, and then there's like a little quiz at the end of them. You do have to have a couple of interviews with social worker type people. Some interesting interviews, honestly. You end up answering questions about yourself that you never knew that you would answer.
Or that people would want to know about you.
Yeah. And then you do have the home study, which is a whole process. And then all these checklists that you have to mark off. And then they come in and make sure that your home is suitable. And that, honestly, they're just making sure that it's a great place to put children. And so it is a long process. It should be a long process. Like, they shouldn't just be handing out the ability to anyone to foster children, because it is a big undertaking, and you need to be 100% sure that it's something that you want to do and that your family is on board with before you do it.
I'm wanting to say that we signed up sometime the beginning of August of 2022 and did not get our house opened for placement until December of 2022. So that's how long that process takes. Now, does it always take that long? No, but
Ours was about that as
genuinely,
well.
generally that's about the time frame that you're looking for is
But once your
3 to
house is
4
open,
months.
you can expect calls. You
That
can
day.
absolutely
That
expect
same
calls.
day.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Okay, so let's talk about a couple of things. Again, I mean, there are so many different conversations that we can have about fostering, adopting, all of these. I mean, and I'm very excited to delve into those because I'm very passionate about it. But specifically, I have 6 things that I was not prepared for, that I wish I had known, and I don't know how many you ended up with.
It's like 4 or 5.
Okay. So one of mine is that, and this isn't in no particular order. I probably should have ordered these in a different way, but getting info on children that you have in your home can sometimes be difficult, especially if you have a newborn child. A lot of times you're sitting there waiting for insurance cards, waiting for information so that you can take them to the doctor, so that you can enroll them in school. And sometimes it's like pulling teeth trying to get information.
And let me say one thing in regards to
Yeah.
that. Personally, the day that we got Chapman, they say that, which is my adopted son, you have to take him to the doctor the next day because he was a newborn. And so generally they have you take the baby to the doctor
Within 1 to 2
within
days,
1
yeah.
to 2 days of being discharged from the hospital. So I am fortunate enough to know his pediatrician. We are distantly related, and I called and said, this is what's going on. We don't have his insurance information. And this was at the front desk of the pediatrician. And they said, well, you can't come in until you have his insurance. And I'm like, DCS is telling us that we have to come in. So my godbrother, who's the doctor, ended up messaging and saying, just bring him in. We'll figure it out. It's going to be okay. But I don't know what you do if you don't have your godbrother be your pediatrician.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of times, like my first placement that I had through DCS, I didn't know who my caseworker was for a while. Like, they didn't contact me. I had this child. Of course, I was in the hospital with him. He was in the NICU, and I was in the hospital with him. I was getting ready to take him home. I still didn't know who my caseworker was. I didn't know much about this child. I honestly didn't even really know his last name because I was told it was one thing. The hospital said it was another. Like, it was this whole entire weird thing. But caseworkers are so overworked, it's not even funny. So we're going to say things that might make us look like we're poo-pooing on caseworkers. We had the best caseworkers, honestly.
I still talk to our caseworker.
Same, I do too.
Still to this day.
And invite her to
Two
different
things.
things in the house. Like, I'm not even an active foster parent at the moment. We're in like a holding season. And I still will contact, send pictures, do different things like that. Like, I love them so much in what they do. So don't think that we're trying to give them a bad name or trying to talk bad about them.
They're
They
overworked,
are so
simply.
overworked. And also, sometimes they don't even know that this kid is on their caseload.
Yeah.
When we get it, you know, and so it can be difficult trying to figure out the hierarchy even of like who is over who, all the different acronyms for the different caseworkers, the family support workers. Like, there's just so many different things. And so what I'm going to say is, be prepared to feel like you're nagging to look for information because that is your job. And don't feel bad about it.
If you don't get an answer from somebody,
Call somebody else.
call somebody else or call somebody that's over them. So, for instance, when we got Chapman, it was 2 days after Christmas. So everyone was on Christmas holiday, everyone was off for vacation, everything like that. You literally show up at the hospital, go in and say, this is who I am for this baby. The nurses let you in. There was no one from DCS, CPS, no one there at all to meet us. We stayed the night, did all the requirements by the hospital. The next day, we check him out and go home. And then someone met us in a parking garage to sign off.
To sign papers.
And it was like, it almost felt like you were stealing this baby.
It was weird, yeah.
Because it felt so, once
It
again,
felt unofficial,
unofficial.
yeah.
It really did. And I'm like, someone gonna show up at my house and say, why do you have this baby type thing?
Yeah. Now,
But
mind you, the hospitals know, they have been in
Yeah.
contact with DCS. Like, they know that somebody is coming, and generally they have your name and all. Like, my experience was that they had my name already.
Yes.
And that I had talked to a social worker.
But because our people were on vacation, we talked to a supervisor that wasn't even in our county to get signed off on. And then I didn't know who our person was for a couple days. And then the caseworker changed about a month later. And so it's a constant thing of who's answering questions.
Yeah. So just be prepared
To be frustrated.
Yeah, I mean, because everyone is, even the caseworkers. Like, nobody, it's not. Unfortunately, it's messy. It's messy. It is.
Yeah.
Okay. What was your? Did you already do yours?
Well, my first one was advocating for the child learning laws and pushing like the guardian ad litem and all that kind of stuff. A lot of times there's a thing called a CFTM, and it's a child family team meeting. You have one of those a month to add to your schedule. You have to do that. And that is where your caseworker, a supervisor, your guardian ad litem, which is the baby's attorney, and then the biological parents both have an attorney that will be on that call as well. And then you're required
Sometimes
to be
DCS's attorney is on it.
Yeah, DCS's attorney is on that. The biological parents are on that call, and then you're required to be on that call to give updates and that kind of stuff. Well, in that call, if you have concerns, if you have things that aren't adding up to you as far as what the parents are supposed to be doing, you have to stand up and say, this is not what's best for baby. He's reacting this way in visitation. I don't think this is best. The doctor has said this, blah, blah, blah. If you just sit by and let them run the show, they're going to. And you feel like you're going to basically piss your caseworker off, honestly, or the guardian ad litem. You're like, oh gosh, I don't want to overstep my boundaries. But the fact of the matter is you have to. This is your baby. Your baby. You're responsible for it.
At the moment, it is your baby.
Yeah.
You are responsible for that baby at that moment, whether you're keeping it or not. Whether you,
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, foster care and DCS's main objective is to reunite the child with the family. So that is what they're looking to do. You don't get into fostering to immediately hope to adopt. Like, that's not why you do it.
But the
You do
fact
it
of the
to love
matter
on children.
is there's only like 8% that go back to the families or something like that.
I don't know what the statistic is, but it's very low.
very low.
It's very low. I was going to say that it's very time intensive. In some cases are more time intensive than others. Between, the child family team meeting that Anna spoke about, you have home visits from your family support worker, which is the person who basically you report back to that person and just make sure that all of your education hours are up to date, all of your insurance and registrations for your cars, homeowner, like all of that stuff is up to date. They actually are very helpful in finding out information. So if you can't find out information on your child, contact that person. It's kind of like a single, ours was very, very helpful. I think even more than yours. We had a different one. But the home visits from her, and then once you get placements, you have home visits with the caseworker of that child. You have court dates, you have doctor's appointments, you have, all the things that you normally have with the children, visitations with family, and that can look totally different. If mom and dad are together, then a lot of times you can do one visitation. If mom and dad are not together and have a restraining order against each other, you have to do two separate ones, and depending on the age, depending on where they live, Anna's was an hour away, so she would have to drive an hour there, an hour back. Sometimes it was a 2-hour visit, so that's half your day.
Biological parents had a no contact order at the beginning, so I drove an hour, had an hour visitation with mom, hour visitation with dad, and then would drive an hour back home.
Yeah. So, it's very time intensive. Now,
every Friday.
There are things that you can, like if you are a working parent who who has a full-time job cannot take off, or those types of things, then, you know, the caseworker a lot of times can help and come get the child and take them. But I'm going to tell you this, if you're going to get into fostering, I think that personally it should be your objective to try to be at every single thing like it is your own child, because
stuff
that child
slips.
does need you as an advocate. That's literally why you're here. That's why you signed up to be a foster parent. And if that's not why you signed up, then you need to reevaluate why you signed up or are planning to sign up. Like, they need you. They need you.
There was one instance where, in our case, we had Chapman in the system, was it 20 months? Something like that. 20 months we did visitations. And there was one instance that something got changed last minute or something like that. And I had to have the caseworker bring him to me halfway. That was the only time that I was not providing transportation every single visitation. But when you, if you get to know your caseworker too, and they tell you about their caseloads and everything, our caseworker would have to go to Memphis, and we are in East Tennessee, so that's an 8-hour drive. She would have to go to Memphis for some visitations. She was having to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go several counties over to pick kids up for school because their parents or the foster parents weren't doing it. You think you're run ragged, that they are super run ragged. So when they don't answer immediately on a text or a question or something that you have, it's not because they're ignoring you. It's just that they have lots of things going on.
Yeah. What's your next one?
My next one. So I was talking about how emotionally taxing that visitations can be on a foster parent. In our situation, where he was 7 days old when we got our first. We've got 2 adopted children, but our first one was through DCS. Our second was a non-custodial placement, so it looked a little bit different. But the mother invited me to come to visitations. Now, that is not necessarily always the case. I think that she wanted me to be there to answer questions or just to try to form a relationship. I'm going to tell you that from the get-go, that's what I started doing. I tried to form the relationship, share pictures, all that kind of stuff. It gets so hard emotionally because whether you try to or not, you get attached to that baby, and that baby becomes yours. And then when you're in the middle of visitation and it's looking like they're getting their act together, or they're saying all the things they need to say,
Which ultimately you want. Like,
yes,
you want them to do good.
it is still way, way, way hard to hear about them talking about the future with the baby that you have raised for 2 years. Literally, you've done everything. That's all the baby has known is you. And so the last, I'd say, 3 months of our visitation, we ended up dropping the baby off with the caseworker at the visitation site. The caseworker would take the baby in. He would cry the entire time, the entire visitation, throw up sometimes from crying, and then she would bring him back out after an hour, and we would drive home. And I had to do that because towards the end, when they knew that they couldn't get their life together, that they were going to be losing him, it started getting uglier and uglier. I mean, that's going to be different from case to case.
Yeah.
If you have older children that you are fostering, and you know what, maybe mom and dad made a really stupid decision. They've never done anything else before. They really are getting their life together, and they're getting their siblings set back. Praise Jesus that a reunification is going to happen. You may be able to go into it with a mindset a little bit differently in different circumstances. But from the get-go, when it looks like there's no hope because all the circumstances are leading to parents not getting the baby back, you get a little more attached than you should. I'll say that.
Bringing in a new placement, saying yes to a new placement looks a whole lot different than what I thought. I thought it would be like, okay, at 2 o'clock, we're going to meet here at the office. You're going to pick up this child. You're going to get its things. It's going to be just nice and lovely and wonderful. And that's never how it happens. You get calls any time, literally any time of day, any day of the week. And it doesn't matter what you're doing. The very first one, actually, every call that I've ever gotten, except for one, I was working, and stopped everything and just in panic mode called everyone. Was like, this is what I need. This is what we need to do. This is where we're going at this point. And I think the last one, I got a call at like 10:30, and by 2:30 or 3:30 I had the child, and was taking him home. Total, it was just, I mean, absolute chaos getting everything, because your world doesn't stop just because of that. I still had to finish
3 other children to take care
well,
of.
and I was doing a live. I literally got off the phone to do a live on YouTube immediately. I'm like frantic, right? And I'm calling my husband. She's calling her husband because it happened to be
A sibling
sibling
set.
set. We are calling the caseworkers, calling the family, because we happen to know the family, and we just wanted to make sure everything was being communicated clearly. And then we're calling Isaiah 117, and then I have to pick up my kids from school, and I have to take them to this appointment for a haircut, and we also have softball practice right after. I mean, and it's just, okay, let's go, let's do this. And that's literally how every one of our placements have been.
And literally the last placements, after we got them, we went to Isaiah 117. By the end of the night, we had cribs, we had mattresses, we had diapers, we had clothes, we had everything that we needed, because we knew the connections that we needed to know. And that's my next point, is the connections. I feel so bad for people that don't have connections in the community.
Same.
We had a friend that just recently got a 5-day-old baby girl, and she messaged me and was like, I did a thing and said yes to a baby last night at 11:30
They got her
p.m.
at 2 something.
Ended up
that
getting her
morning.
at like 2 a.m. She had to work that next day. Had no idea who was going to watch the baby. I went and bought her like $200 worth of clothes, because she had nothing except for what the baby came in. And then 2 weeks later, she still hadn't heard from her caseworker. And I'm like, what are they doing for you? And she said, we have nothing. So if you are not familiar with Isaiah 117, it is a organization that was started locally, just like an hour or two away. And it basically helps any child on the day of removal into CPS custody or DCS custody. They try to make the transition as easy as possible. They give the kids clothes. They give them anything that they need, a warm meal. That's where they stay until they're placed, so they're not having to sleep on DCS floor. We can link a little blurb about them from Rhonda is the lady that started the organization. She's phenomenal. But I personally have contacts with our local one. I'm good friends with the director. And so I called and was like, this is what's going on. She's in our county. Is there anything that you can do? And within 15 minutes, I had everything that she needed for her nursery, and then an Amazon gift card sent her way for anything else that she could think of that they didn't personally have in the warehouse. What they do is take donations, brand new donations, still have to have tags and everything on it. They have a quote unquote store in the houses that they build that's like a bonus room type thing. And it is filled with every size of everything that you can imagine that you would need for a child.
From newborn to adult sizes.
Yeah, from newborn to adult sizes. And they go and just gift the families whatever they need to help aiding with taking that placement
So
in.
that it's not a burden, because you, like I said, it's absolute chaos. You've got the emotional chaos, you have the physical aspect of it, and then the last thing that you need to do is worry about where you're going to get clothes or a bed or a car seat or whatever to help this child. And that's how they love on fosters and foster families. I was not. Okay, so when you sign up to be a foster parent, you fill out this questionnaire, and it's like, what is your ideal age and gender for the placements that you would like to choose? So you fill that out, right? For instance, I had at the time 7 and 9 year old. I don't remember how old my kids were at the time. Younger. So I knew that I wanted younger. I didn't want older children that might influence my kids at a vulnerable time. So I knew I wanted younger. So I put birth to 5 years, I think is the
that first
range. And I
bracket.
didn't care if it was boy or girl. Didn't care what the race was. You have to be specific about all these things. And when I get a phone call and it's for a 16-year-old boy or a sibling set of and I said that I could only take one because the way that my house was, I could only take one at the time. I get a call for a sibling set of 3, or I get a call for a child that is special needs, and I like one-on-one care 24/7, and I'm not equipped to deal with that. They're gonna call you with any need they have. So they get this placement.
I don't even know why they ask you what you want.
No, they
honestly
just start going down this list and call everybody until they can find a placement for them. And I was not expecting that, and so I was not expecting to have to say no, and the guilt behind that. You hang up and you're like, man, was that an opportunity that I could have just stepped up and I mean, sometimes you absolutely cannot, but I personally felt guilt every single time. It got to where I would almost just not answer the phone because I knew that I couldn't take it. I had 4 kids in my house at one point, and they called for a sibling set of 3. I was like, you're going to have to give me a bus to take these kids around.
Well, and the funny thing is about placement is you never know how it's going to affect or domino affect other areas of your life, because there's this thing called respite care, and respite is basically, if you don't want to take a permanent placement, you could help another foster family that may be going on vacation and their child isn't approved to go on that vacation. You keep them for the week and then they go back to the family. So while we had one placement, we took a respite placement. Long story short, one of our friends ended up adopting the baby that I did respite care for, and had my yes affected them. So when you're turning down all these other ones, it's like, oh gosh, who have I affected?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Well, the first. I got a call, I guess it was about a week after we got our 7-day-old, and her name's Vicky with placement, and she said, how are you doing? How's the baby? And I said, good. And she said, well, I'm calling to see if you want a 13-year-old that likes to strangle people or a 15-year-old with multiple personality disorder. And I was like, I'm just going to keep my baby safe, thanks. But she's like, okay, have a great day. But they have to call.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you feel bad about whatever it is, but there's literally nothing. Like I didn't want that around a newborn.
Yeah, I had a newborn and they knew it, and I got a call. I had a newborn and a 18-month-old. We have an 8-year-old, or I don't remember how old the kid was, and he's combative toward infants. I'm like, no.
Yeah, like no.
What's your next one?
I think that was all I
Okay,
had.
my next one is that just nothing so a lot of times people will say, I could never foster because I couldn't stand if they were taken away. I couldn't stand how that would make my heart feel. I've got so many things, so many different squirrel type thoughts on this.
Oh yeah. We are not superheroes.
No, I was going to say there's nothing magical about us. It hurts us just like you think it would. Also, if you are having biological children and happen to lose a child, that's not something that you plan on, and the grief there is just as big. So, unfortunately, no matter what avenue you choose to allow children into your life, there can always be grief. I think with one of my placements, I walked into it thinking that the child could go back to biological family. It was a possibility. 10 months later, I'm still taking care of this child. The family is not really making progress, but unexpectedly the child goes back, right? it absolutely wrecked my world, wrecked all of our world. And it's not just you, it's your friends and your family. Like, it
That have fallen in love with
affects
the kid.
everybody. And bottom line, they deserve to be loved that way. They deserve to be loved in the way that when they are removed from your home, it wrecks your world. Like, you should not say yes to fostering a child and bringing them in your house thinking that you can just disengage and not really love that child, because that's not what that child deserves. The child deserves to be loved in a way that Jesus would love them, which is wholeheartedly, holding nothing back, everything for that kid, so that it does hurt when he or she gets ripped from your family. And if you can't commit to that, I'm going to say I don't really feel like you should commit to being a foster parent. These children are hurting in ways that you have absolutely no idea. Now, maybe you have been a foster kid and you know a little bit, but that doesn't necessarily mean you know that their story, right?
Right.
So, they deserve the world. They really do. It does not matter what they've done. They did not choose this. They have not made these choices. And so you have to, I'm going to just say it, you have to get over yourself. It's not about you. It's about them. And it was never about you. It's about them, and it's about doing what Jesus has asked you to do. And I'm going to also say that if you don't 100% feel like Jesus has specifically asked you,
Don't do it.
to be right, yeah, to be a foster parent, then do not do it, because you're going to need to sit back in moments and be like, okay, God told me to do this. God brought this on my heart. He's laid it on my heart, and he's going to make it okay one way or another, right?
We have been raised in a church our entire life. That's how our faith is there in Jesus. And I have had more at the feet of Jesus moments since I've been a foster mother than I did the whole 35 years before I started doing this.
Yeah.
And in that two years, he'll wreck you. He'll
Yeah.
wreck you for great reasons.
Yeah, your yes will totally wreck you.
And here's the thing, not only does it make you grow as a mother in your faith, like it grows all other aspects of your life too. There's like, oh, I don't want growth, but I mean it's a forced growth. Yeah. Oh, don't say yes unless you mean it.
Yeah, honestly, well, but I will also say, if you say yes, if Jesus is telling you to say yes and you do say yes, I personally feel like there is supernatural grace and mercy and all of the things in those moments. Like, I don't know how you would get through. I don't know how you would get through it without support and without Jesus and with, I don't know. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. So again, that just comes back to support. Let's just make sure that you have your community. And I mean, there are, if you don't, if for instance, if you have recently moved, you have a new job or whatever, you're interested in fostering and you don't have friends and family around you specifically,
It may not be the time to do it.
Or try to plug in, try to find some fostering, not clubs, I don't even know, groups or whatever.
Fostering club.
Foster club. Look online and find a community, Facebook group, whatever, in your community, and see if you can plug in that way and see if you can get support in that manner. There are groups that, for each state specifically, if you have specific questions about fostering in your state. So look those things up. I mean, there's all sorts of
and you know what?
information and
if you want to get involved in a practical way as far as being an advocate for a child, I don't know if it's just Tennessee or who it is, but Tennessee has an organization called CASA, and they are a child advocacy program specifically for that. You do not have custody of the children, but you help aid the foster parents in getting information or resources and that sort of thing to help them along their foster journey. So there's other ways that you can be involved and support than taking a physical child. If you feel called to that, you can just ask questions in the comments too. Honestly, we'll help try to link you up with whatever organizations that we know of, that could get you involved without actually having to take children into your home.
Yeah. Again, we're just going to reiterate: fostering is not for everyone. It is not. It is not something to be celebrated in the sense of, oh, it's so wonderful you're a foster parent, or those kids are so lucky, or blah. Like, that's not what the foster children in foster care. It is such a broken, sad situation. There's really nothing to celebrate there. And the only thing I think that can improve the situation at all is to have people who love children and are in fostering for the right reasons. And I don't know that that necessarily improves the situation as much as it just makes it not worse.
Right.
But again, fostering is not specifically for adoption, so do not get into it for that. That's not what it's about. It's not. So don't think that. Did you have anything else?
Wrap that up.
I'm so excited about these conversations, though. Like, I feel like this little talk, it's spurring so many different. I love adoption, and I love foster care, and I love all of that. Not because I'm happy these children are in these situations. I would prefer to live in a world where adoption and fostering were not even needed, obviously.
Yeah.
But I'm very passionate about it because I'm very passionate about children and children in need specifically. So we're excited about future conversations with that. But thanks for watching this, and let us know if you like this content, if you want to see other videos about fostering and adopting, or if there's like specific things about those that you'd like to talk about. Let us know by leaving a comment below. Also, subscribe to the channel if you're not already a subscriber, and turn on notifications so you know every time we post content. We'll see you guys here another day for another video.